Heartbreaking revelations. I planned an amazing birthday bash but discovered my son wasn't coming. Sarah's heart sank as she stood in her kitchen, the aroma of freshly baked cookies swirling around her like a comforting hug. She had decorated their small home with vibrant balloons and shimmering streamers, each element painstakingly chosen to make Jake's 16th birthday unforgettable. She could already picture the delight in his eyes when he saw the football-shaped cake, a testament to his passion. But now, as the clock ticked towards the evening, dread clawed at her gut. "Mom, I'm going out with my friends tonight," Jake had casually declared just moments before, his eyes focused on the screen of his phone. He hadn't even glanced around at the preparations. The words hit her like a punch to the stomach, a gut-wrenching rejection that echoed in the silence of their home. How could he leave her like this? All the sacrifices she'd made, the late nights studying while he slept beside her, the college fund she'd scrimped and saved for now seemed worthless. The boy who once clung to her every word was drifting away into a world she didn't understand. She wrestled with conflicting emotions. Pride for his independence mixed with a pang of betrayal that cut deeper than she could articulate. Is this really how it's going to end? She thought, the walls closing in on her as memories flickered back: school projects, late-night talks, the way he'd light up at the smallest gestures. She had poured all of herself into raising him, only to find him slipping away as if he were a balloon she had let go. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She felt a mix of desperation and determination swell inside her. How could she reach him? With trembling fingers, she crafted a message, pouring her love, hurt, and confusion into each word. Sharing her feelings felt like exposing her soul, a risk she was willing to take. The silence of the moment felt unbearable, lingering like a weight on her chest. What if he didn't care? What if he just ignored her, leaving her to bask in her loneliness? Just as she hit send, Sarah felt an overwhelming rush of anxiety wash over her, intertwining with the lingering hope that maybe this time he would understand. The seconds stretched into eternity as she waited for a reply, each tick of the clock amplifying her mounting dread. Then it came: a notification. Jake's response unfolded a side of him she couldn't have imagined, detailing the weight he felt, the suffocating fear of not living up to expectations, drowning in a sea of self-doubt where his friends couldn't even begin to comprehend. But as the replies continued, unraveling deeper emotional truths, Sarah wrestled with a growing chasm of tension, realizing that the deeper they delved into each other's hearts, the more fragile their connection became. Each message showcased the raw hurt, the unsaid words hanging thick between them like a storm waiting to break. And just when it felt like they were forging a path back to each other, Jake shared he might still spend the night with his friends. The clock was counting down to a tipping point, her heart racing as she glanced around their lovingly prepared dining table. Each place setting was an emblem of her undying love, but as the evening approached, she was left with a gnawing anxiety. A question weighed in the room: would he remember what mattered, or would silence echo through their home, a testament to the barriers still looming between them? The tension in the air was palpable as Sarah hovered between hope and despair. Each passing minute was a reminder of the chasm growing wider between her and Jake. She began to mentally prepare herself for either outcome, a decision she hadn't quite accepted yet. Perhaps he would come to his senses, or perhaps this was a moment that would echo through their relationship for years to come. As the clock neared the designated hour for the party, Sarah felt a sudden surge of resolve. Rather than wallow in heartbreak, she could take action. She needed to regain control, even if it was just over her own emotions. Flipping the kitchen timer to signal baking time, she resolved to prepare herself instead of waiting passively, her thoughts buzzing with possibilities. Flipping open her laptop, she began researching ways to initiate a deeper conversation with Jake: articles on teenage psychology, tips on effective communication, even parenting forums where others shared tips. Her fingers flew across the keys as she delved into the complexities of adolescent independence mingled with the universal desire for acceptance. It wasn't just about this birthday, it was about every moment leading to this one. The intricate tapestry of their relationship needed some reweaving. But she also felt the sharp pang of insecurity. Was she even qualified to guide him through this shaky terrain? Self-doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest, menacing her thoughts. Was she too invested, too emotional? But then the truth hit her: those very emotions, so often viewed as weaknesses, were her greatest strength. They had guided her thus far and propelled her to sacrifice everything for Jake's future. They could be the bridge to understanding each other. With newfound conviction, she paused her frantic typing and took a deep breath, clearing her mind to focus. What would it take to make Jake fully realize that her love was not a burden to escape? To instead see it as a platform for his growth? She pondered what it would be like to share a more authentic version of herself, to open up about her own fears as a parent, the struggles she faced, the sleepless nights worrying whether she did enough for him. As she sank into contemplation, a sudden call from Jake slashed through her thoughts like a knife. "Hey, Mom. I might come back later." He sounded hesitant on the line, and the hesitation in his voice ignited a flicker of hope. "My friends were planning to go to that new arcade, but I feel bad." Her heart quickened at the unexpected development, a cocktail of relief and concern flooding her senses. "You feel bad? About the party?" she asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions coursing through her heart. "Yeah," he admitted, caught in the scrutiny of his own conscience. "I mean, I didn't think it would matter that much, but now I see how upset you were." In that moment, Sarah realized that vulnerability was a two-way street. She could open her heart, but Jake needed to feel safe to express his turmoil too. Gently, she began to frame her next words. "It does matter, Jake. Your birthday is special to me because you're special to me. But I also want you to be happy and make memories with your friends. How would you feel if we could make both happen?" A wavering silence followed, layered with the weight of their emerging understanding. Jake hesitated. "What do you mean?" "I mean, why don't we share your birthday with your friends? We can do a small get-together after. Just the ones you want." The line fell quiet again, but this time, it wasn't laced with unease but a whisper of potential. Would this suggestion not only unlock a more profound connection between them but also empower Jake to embrace his evolving independence? Sarah lingered on that thought, eager to explore the outcome. Gradually, the tension lifted like morning fog. She could see the first signs of collaborative ownership of their relationship blossoming in this impromptu negotiation. Just as she felt on the verge of breakthrough, Jake's next words pierced through her anticipatory reverie. "What if my friends don't want to come? What if they think it's lame?" The question hung in the air, heavy with self-doubt, leaving Sarah acutely aware of the vulnerability not just in Jake, but in herself too. It was their shifting dynamic staring back at them from the edge of a precipice. "They might surprise you, and if they don't, I'll always be here," she reassured him, steeling her resolve. Before he could respond, Sarah lifted her gaze towards the family photo framed on the wall, the smiling faces frozen in time. Could she really help Jake discover the strength of vulnerability through their conversation? Her heart thudded, a mix of excitement and fear. The next steps loomed ahead like a cliff's edge, inviting and intimidating. Will Jake take that leap of faith with her? And just as clarity began to dawn, her phone vibrated again, a new message from Jake. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, an unexpected twist in their unfolding narrative. What would he reveal next? The message appeared on Sarah's screen, a lifeline in an ocean of uncertainty. "I told them we could hang out, but it's not like they'll actually show up or anything." As she stared at the words, Sarah felt her earlier excitement collide with a new wave of anxiety. This was the moment of truth. Would Jake's friends exhibit the same reluctance to celebrate his achievement, or was it merely his own internal struggle plaguing him? That thought reverberated in her mind, igniting resolve mixed with maternal instinct. In that instant, she recognized that Jake's insecurity mirrored her own. Both of them were navigating the uncharted waters of vulnerability, he, in fear of rejection, and she, in the shadow of self-doubt. Each spoke volumes about deeper issues that needed to be unpacked. Deciding to act decisively, she quickly tapped out a response. "Jake, why don't you text them again? Sometimes, it just takes a little push. How about you try saying how much it would mean to you if they did come? People like to feel valued." She hit send and inhaled deeply, reminding herself that reaching out was critical. This specific moment was larger than just the party. It was an illustration of her desire for connection and opportunity to guide Jake in understanding the importance of his voice and presence in the world around him. Seconds ticked by, stretching into an expanse filled with silence. As the steam from the oven wafted through the kitchen, Sarah turned her attention back to her tasks, trying to delicately balance the urge to check her phone with the necessity of keeping her mind clear. She grabbed a bowl and began to mix, each stir mirroring her attempts to blend thoughts and emotions into something coherent. But peace was elusive. The knot in her stomach tightened, punctuated with concern. Was she pushing too hard, putting Jake in an uncomfortable position by suggesting he reach out to others? Self-doubt threatened to drown out her earlier resolve. Perhaps parenting did also require restraint. Then, her phone buzzed again, pulling her into a state of anticipation. "I'll try. It'd be nice to have something like this." The words crackled with uncertainty, yet beneath them, there lay a flicker of hope. Perhaps she had nudged him just enough toward the edge of taking a leap. With newfound energy coursing through her, Sarah began to prepare the ingredients for the birthday cake. Each layer took shape like piecework in their relationship, the act symbolizing layers of trust and understanding they still needed to build. She focused on the rhythmic motion, allowing the mundane task to settle her nerves while brainstorming how she could make the party itself more appealing for both Jake and his friends. She started thinking of small games they could play, things that could break the ice, allowing them to break free from their screens and connect with one another. An idea took root, a mini talent show where everyone could showcase something unique, instilling a sense of ownership and participation. Suddenly, a surge of excitement pulsed through her veins. Not only would this give the boys a reason to come together, but it would highlight Jake's strengths, allowing him to shine in a comfortable environment crafted by his own mother. Sarah quickly jotted down notes about the concept, a vision slowly unfolding in her mind. In the act of planning, she felt a sense of purpose grounding her, softening the uncertainty that had fogged her previous moments. A glance at the clock reminded her that time was short. Returning her focus to the batter, she could feel the bubbling anticipation growing within her for what was about to emerge, not just the cake, but the transformation of their connection. But just as she poured the batter into the pan, her phone vibrated once more, drawing her eyes back to the screen. "They said they might come. I don't want to jinx it." The duality of hope mingled with anxiety encompassed her. His friends might come, but what if they didn't? Would they validate Jake in a way he desperately needed? It wasn't just a party she was planning anymore. It was a critical point in their relationship, a juncture that could either fracture or forge a tighter bond. With fingers trembling, she typed back, "That's a huge step. Just remember, they care about you. You just need to believe in your own worth." The clock ticked on, each moment drumming up anticipation like the sound of a ticking bomb. Would Jake muster the courage to embrace his strengths and bring his friends along for this pivotal journey, or would fear continue to hold him back from fully engaging with the world around him? Deep in thought about her son's next choices, Sarah realized her journey was similar. She needed to embrace her own fears and trust the instincts that led her to this moment. The narrative of their lives was shifting, but in what direction remained to be seen. As she placed the cake in the oven, her heart raced with uncertainty and hope what awaited them on the other side of this moment. As the cake settled in the oven, the aroma of vanilla and sugar mingling with the scent of melted chocolate created a surprisingly comforting atmosphere. Still, the heady mixture didn't mask the heavy undertow of anxiety that gripped Sarah's heart. Every tick of the clock echoed in her ears, an incessant reminder of all that was at stake. She needed to focus. Shaking off the creeping panic, Sarah picked up her phone and scrolled back through her conversation with Jake. His last message lingered in the air like a question mark, filled with both longing and latent fear. How could she help him bridge that gap? She felt the shared unease again, his reluctance mirroring her own struggles with self-acceptance. Was it possible to coax each other into a place of comfort? The idea of the mini talent show had planted a seed of excitement within her, but now it seemed like a fragile notion built atop their shaky foundation. What if the boys didn't want to participate? What if Jake hesitated, overwhelmed by the attention? The very thought made her fingers hover over the keyboard. Was she just layering pressure onto him rather than facilitating growth? She took a step back, reflecting on what the task at hand represented. Planning hadn't merely become an act of creativity, it was a path to foster connection, a means by which Jake could learn to value himself, to understand the power of his voice. In this moment, she realized her role was as much about ensuring he felt respected as it was about crafting a fun event. After a deep breath to steady her racing thoughts, Sarah decided to act. Texting Jake again, she typed, "This is more than a party, you know. It's the chance to show your talents and maybe bring your friends closer together. What do you think you want to do?" The question hung in the air as she pressed send. Would he see it as an opportunity or merely another expectation? The ensuing silence clawed at her resolve. She turned her attention back to the cake, tapping her fingers against the counter rhythmically as she beat back her insecurities. Her mind drifted to her own experiences as a young girl, how she had often felt like an outsider, how she had yearned for acknowledgement and acceptance. She recalled the small moments, a compliment from a teacher, a tip of the hat from a classmate, that had fueled her spirit. This was what she wished for Jake, to find those moments of affirmation, to claim his space among his peers. The oven timer beeped, pulling her back to the present moment. She whipped the door open, marveling at the cake's golden surface. As the steam escaped, she felt a surge of satisfaction, a metaphor for her journey with Jake. Perhaps there was comfort in nurturing something until it blossomed into something beautiful. Just as she set the cake on the cooling rack, her phone buzzed once more. "I have an idea," Jake texted back. "What about a magic trick? I practiced one last week." A flicker of joy lit up Sarah's face. Here it was. He was finding his strength, mapping out a space where vulnerability could transition to assuredness. But then a wave of doubt engulfed her again. What if it wasn't enough? What if he froze up on the day? She quickly brushed aside the anxious thoughts, resolving that his willingness to even ponder sharing an idea was a significant step forward. Encouraged, she typed, "A magic trick sounds fantastic. You can showcase something unique about yourself, too. Remember, nothing needs to be perfect. Just be you, and that's enough." As she hit send, she felt the weight of her own expectations begin to lift slightly. She wasn't just cheering him on, she was letting him know that it was okay to be seen, to step out from behind the curtains of self-doubt. Yet, a lurking thought clawed at her enthusiasm. What if Jake's preparations ran off course? What if the party didn't unfold as she had envisioned? Would either of them be able to handle disappointment? Movement in the living room caught her attention, pulling her gaze from the kitchen back to her son. He was staring at his phone, a mix of hope and trepidation lingering on his features. Somewhere inside, an instinct told her this wasn't just about a birthday party. It was a crossroads, one that would define their relationship moving forward. Suddenly, the realization hit: she needed to show Jake that encountering fear was part of growth, but also that it was imperative to stand firm in the face of adversity. The moment of truth was approaching, not just for him, but for her as well. What remained unclear was whether they would successfully cross this bridge together or if one of them would falter in the process. As the shadows deepened in the fading light of the day, she steeled herself for what lay ahead: the first rehearsal for Jake's magic trick. Could it turn into a moment that would fortify a growing bond, or would it devolve into a silence they both feared? The afternoon sun filtered through the half-drawn curtains, casting a warm glow in the living room like a spotlight waiting for a show to begin. Sarah noticed her reflection in the glass, the uncertainty in her eyes tarnished by determined resolve. Rehearsals weren't just practice, they were stepping stones into a stronger bond with her son. She had reshaped her expectations, but she still felt the knots of doubt tightening in her chest. Jake emerged from his room, a glimmer of excitement playing on his features. "So, can we practice now?" he asked, his enthusiasm palpable yet undercut by a hint of vulnerability. "Absolutely. Let us see this magic trick you've been practicing," Sarah replied, forcing a smile that came from a deep yearning to be the supportive mother she envisioned. But beneath her facade, she was grappling with her own fears. What if she failed him in this? What if this rehearsal unraveled his burgeoning confidence? As he gathered his props, a deck of cards and a small box adorned with stars, she watched him closely. He shuffled the cards nervously, his hands trembling slightly. She felt a pang of empathy. After all, she had been in similar situations, standing at the crossroads of fear and self-discovery. The stakes felt high to her, mirroring her own recent attempts at taking risks in her life. "Do you want me to be your audience for today?" Sarah suggested, settling onto the couch, her gaze fixed on him. She could see the flicker of determination in his eyes, but she also recognized the weight of apprehension clenched in his small frame. "Yeah, I think that would help," he admitted, biting his lip, an innocent gesture that echoed the countless times she had seen him shy away from sharing himself openly. "Just remember, Jake, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be you," she echoed her earlier words, albeit with a trembling wavering in her voice that betrayed her own insecurities about being a guiding figure in his life. With a deep breath, Jake began, fumbling a bit but gradually starting to find his rhythm. The first card trick came together in disarray. The cards slid from his hand and fell to the floor. A moment of embarrassment washed over him, and she could see the flush creeping up his neck. "It's okay, sweetie. Mistakes are part of the process," Sarah encouraged, even as a voice in her head suggested perhaps she was merely masking her own inadequacies as a mother. Her instinct was to reassure him that not everything needed to go according to plan. Yet, in the back of her mind, the worry of failure loomed, threatening to taint this moment meant for growth. As they continued, Jake executed several more tricks, each one revealing a bit more confidence. With each successful reveal, she felt her heart swell, but accompanied by a conflicting shadow. What if his burgeoning self-esteem didn't hold up when the spotlight truly shone? "Let's try it one more time," he proposed excitedly, determination glinting in his eyes. Sarah's heart sank. She recognized that in his enthusiasm, he mirrored her own relentless quest for validation. She had always sought approval through the things she created, especially in her baking, a perfect metaphor for her journey with Jake. "Sure, but remember to breathe. It's about enjoying the moment, too," she reminded him, each word carrying her own hidden fear of failure. Anxiety bubbled again as she questioned her effectiveness as a coach. Was she empowering him or merely amplifying his expectations? As Jake began the trick again, something cracked within her. It was the realization that the game wasn't just about him anymore. It was her critical lesson about unconditional acceptance and the willingness to face her own fears alongside him. It was as if he were unwittingly asking her to join him on this journey, and she needed to decide if she could willingly take the leap. "Wow. That was great," she exclaimed, masking the tumult within. The applause felt half-hearted because the truth gnawed at her. What if Jake's nonverbal signals showed more unease than triumph? Yet, just as the pulse of pride began to settle, her phone buzzed again. A message from a number she didn't recognize flashed on the screen, and an icy wave swept through her. "Sarah, I need to talk to you. It's about Jake's birthday party." A chill cascaded down her spine. She realized with sudden clarity that the conversations surrounding birthdays and celebrations had their own complexities, and perhaps one of those complexities could threaten everything they had just begun to navigate together. What had she overlooked in the planning? The inquiry tore through her anxious thoughts as she forced herself to calm her racing heart. As her grip tightened around her phone, she braced for a revelation that could shatter the fragile bridge they had begun to build. The phone slipped from her fingers, landing softly on the couch as her mind spiraled into a dark wave of what-ifs. She felt the cool fabric press against her damp palms, a stark reminder of her unraveling composure. The message from the unknown sender felt like a heavy stone dropped into a calm lake, sending ripples that threatened to disturb everything she'd been attempting to build with Jake. "Who's that?" Jake asked, peering at her with curiosity, his previous excitement momentarily dimmed. "It's just someone about your birthday party," she replied, forcing her voice to maintain a light-hearted tone, but it came out strained. Nothing to worry about. But she was worried. The pressures of organizing an ideal birthday, a day she had fantasized about for months, were now morphing into a nightmare. Her intention to create a magical experience felt overshadowed by an unexplained dread. What if Jake didn't want to celebrate? What if he felt alone and her efforts only highlighted his insecurities? Can we just keep practicing? Jake's voice was barely above a whisper, leaving her torn between the remnants of his enthusiasm and the dark cloud that loomed in her thoughts. Of course. Let us move on to your next trick. The words felt hollow as she offered them, a pit growing in her stomach. She watched him begin again, his focus returning, but her mind was elsewhere as each graceful movement only seemed to emphasize the underlying tension pricking at her. With him lost in his world of cards, Sarah leaned back, her mind racing even faster than before. The lack of signatures on invitations, the unusual silence from friends had already sparked her worries, but now this sudden note only deepened the worry. The impulse to dive into research bubbled within her. She could churn through social media feeds and group chats for clues, but what would that accomplish? It wasn't just about party planning, it was about understanding Jake. The thought struck her hard. It dawned on her that perhaps her approach had been too surface level, swallowed by the allure of grandeur, forgetting what truly mattered. Did she even know what Jake hoped for in his birthday? Had she asked him? With each successful trick he performed, she felt an unfamiliar sense of guilt creep in. As Jake executed a particularly skilled maneuver, the applause surged from her lips out of habit rather than genuine enthusiasm. He smiled, but the sunlight no longer felt warm, it felt blinding. Can I try a new trick I saw online? Jake's excitement re-emerged, but it came laced with trepidation. Sure, let us see it. She shifted, trying to project confidence, but her heart was heavy. Who was she to dampen his spirit under the weight of her own fears? Was she supporting him, or was she shaping him into a reflection of her own desires? Sarah? The voice from the phone plinked into her mind like a bad tune she couldn't shake off. The thought returned like a stubborn itch. What if she was pushing Jake out of his comfort zone without understanding his needs? As Jake fumbled through the motions of the new trick, an epiphany struck. It was not just about Jake finding confidence with his performance, it was about her learning to trust him completely. He needed to feel secure in this journey, knowing that the foundation they were building together didn't rest solely on applause and shared expectations. It relied on open communication, on understanding each other's fears and dreams. And then, with the trick nearly complete, Jake faltered. The cards sprang from his hands like a cascade of awkwardness, scattering on the floor. He froze, the familiar flush of embarrassment painting his cheeks bright red again, but this time, Sarah saw something different in his eyes, a spark of resilience, the glimmer of a lesson learned. Everyone makes mistakes, right? He said suddenly, a small smile peeking through the clouds of disappointment. Yes, they do. Mistakes are how we learn, she replied, meaning every word. In that moment, she realized her own hesitations about the party were indeed her insecurities, mirrored in him. Can we just have fun together? He looked up, hope flooding his expression. Just fun, she echoed, a newfound determination lacing her words. Let us focus on that. The two of them spent the next moments laughing at the spilled cards, each mistake turning into a shared joke, a moment of bonding that went beyond expectations and rehearsals. Yet as they practiced, a new question loomed over Sarah's mind. What if the very foundation they were cultivating was about to be tested? Who was the sender of that ominous message? The answer could drastically change everything, just as they were beginning to embrace their journey together. With each trick, she felt both lighter and heavier simultaneously, setting the stage for connections to deepen, or perhaps unravel entirely. As her phone echoed empty silence, a tougher realization dawned. She had a choice to confront the unknowns ahead or retreat into complacency. Which path would she take? The following day dawned gray, a thick blanket of clouds obscuring the sun. It mirrored the turmoil swirling in Sarah's mind. Her phone lay silent on the table, a gentle reminder of unresolved anxieties. As she brewed her morning coffee, the rich aroma filled the air, yet it could do little to assuage her troubled heart. What would she say to Jake today? How could she balance the weight of her responsibilities while nurturing his burgeoning confidence? Stepping into the living room, she found Jake practicing again, completely absorbed in his world of cards. He seemed so focused, so free, and for a moment, she envied his ability to forget everything but the magic he was creating. It was a stark contrast to her own reality, where her mind was consumed by the specter of that anonymous message and the possibility that it signaled trouble. "Hey, Jake," she began, careful to keep her tone light. "What do you think we should do today?" He looked up, a flicker of surprise breaking his concentration. "Can we try out some new tricks? I found a great one about making a card disappear." His enthusiasm was genuine, a contagious spark that momentarily lit her dim spirits. "Absolutely. Let us do it," she said, but her heart was still heavy with the unresolved issues. As they practiced, flashes of guilt flared through her. The more she observed him, the more she realized that his performances were not about the trick itself but about the expression of his individuality. Each flourish of the hand and each triumphant smile was Jake finding his voice. At that moment, she understood that it was her turn to find hers. Taking a deep breath, she decided to bring up what had been nagging at her since she first saw that message. "Hey, can we talk about something?" Jake looked apprehensive but nodded slowly, setting the cards down. "There's been something on my mind. I just want to make sure you're excited about your birthday party," she began, her hands fidgeting with uncertainty. "I know I've been planning a lot, but what if you don't want a party at all?" His gaze was steady as he contemplated her words. "I'm not sure what I want, honestly," he admitted. "I've just wanted to make you happy. The tricks, the party, it's all been kind of overwhelming." His confession struck her like a thief in the night, stealing the air from her lungs. She had been so wrapped up in an idealized vision that she hadn't taken the time to understand what he desired. "I thought you'd want it to be amazing," she said softly, her own voice reflecting her uncertainty and fears. "I want to have fun with you, like we've been doing," he replied, a hint of determination lighting up his expression. "I think that's what matters most." There it was again, his simple, clear perspective pierced through her layered concerns. It gleamed like a beacon, and suddenly, her heart began to lift. Maybe it was time for her to let go of the pressure she had placed on herself and instead reflect the openness Jake was suggesting. She could allow the party to evolve naturally, taking cues from what he truly wanted, rather than dictating how it should unfold. "You know, we can still have a party, but it can be just relaxed and fun. No crazy expectations," she encouraged. "Maybe just hanging out with a few friends and doing some magic tricks for everyone." "Yeah. I'd like that," he exclaimed, a sign of relief washing over both of them. The core of their interaction unveiled more than just party planning. It mirrored a deeper understanding of mutual respect and communication, a recognition that vulnerability could lead to growth. This moment transcended Jake's birthday. It was about trust and connection, about appreciating the authenticity of their relationship. Yet even as they surfaced from this emotional deep end, the ominous presence of that message still loomed over Sarah. It had felt like a shadow growing larger, darker, whenever she considered it. She glanced toward her phone, the silence now almost palpable. What if the message was not just a nuisance, but a signal that something deeper awaited her? The realization was stark. She had dismissed it so easily before, but now it felt significant, almost a challenge she needed to confront. With newfound intention igniting her curiosity, Sarah thought, maybe this was the moment to unearth the truths hiding beneath the surface. Before she could dig further, her phone buzzed, jarring her from her thoughts. A knot tightened in her stomach as she hesitated, her finger hovering above the screen. She could feel her heart racing, anticipation gripping her chest. It was time to face the unknown. What revelation awaited her? And would it strengthen or shatter the bond she was so desperately trying to build? Clenching her jaw, Sarah finally allowed her finger to tap the screen, revealing a message that seemed to whisper secrets she could hardly bear. "We need to talk. Meet me at the park. It's about Jake." The text sent adrenaline coursing through her veins, intensifying her anxieties. Who was this person, and what could they possibly want? As she processed the message, the unsettling reality washed over her like ice water. This could be the moment that unraveled everything she had been trying to protect. "Jake," she said softly, her voice faltering. I need to go out for a bit. He looked up from his cards, confusion filling his eyes. Can I come? She hesitated, grappling with the urgent need for clarity and the instinct to shield him from whatever storm was approaching. No, sweetie. This is just something I need to handle on my own. You keep practicing, okay? Sure, he nodded slowly, though the concern etched across his features deepened her unease. The chill of the day matched the quickening pace of her heart as she made her way to the park. Each step was heavy with foreboding, and the world around her faded into a blur of dark treetops and gray skies. Why was this person seeking her out? What truths could lay hidden beneath their intention? Arriving at the park, a thin mist hung over the ground like it had been exhaled from the earth. Her nerves prickled, and she searched the area for any sign of the unknown figure. Finally, she spotted a silhouette leaning against a weathered bench, an amalgamation of familiarity and fear. As she approached, the figure straightened. It was a friend from her past, someone she hadn't connected with in years. Sarah, they greeted, their tone lacking the warmth she remembered. Thanks for coming. Despite the ringing silence of unresolved issues between them, Sarah couldn't shake the tension that coiled tightly within her. What do you want? Why now? They drew in a breath as if weighing their words carefully. It's about Jake. You need to know some things. The simple phrase ignited a storm of fear in her chest. What things? Is he in trouble? It's not that simple, they replied, their avoidance making her heart race faster. There are things that have happened, things that could affect him. Just tell me. The urgency in her voice reverberated in the empty park. What do you mean? You're scaring me. I found out about the tricks he's been doing, they finally said, eyes darting nervously to the ground. And I think they're linked to something much bigger. Bigger? Paranoia coursed through her veins. The clarity she thought would come was instead shrouded in a thick fog of dread. She felt her world tilt unsteadily as the implications sank in. It felt like a fracture, as if she were on the brink of a revelation that threatened not just her but everything she had ever dreamed for Jake. Linked to what? She pushed back, her voice steady despite the swirl of chaos in her mind. What do you mean? You have to tell me everything. I can't say much now. Just be careful how you support him, they urged. Things could get dicey. Dread seeped into her bones as she processed the warning, her mind racing with possibilities. Jake had always been a light in the darkness, a source of joy she cherished. But was that happiness at risk? As the conversation wrapped in layers of unspoken fears and half-finished thoughts, Sarah's determination twisted into a flicker of defiance. She would not let fear dictate her path. She would fight for Jake's happiness, just as he had shown her through their magic practices. Returning home, her resolve solidified. This wasn't just about the precariousness of a birthday party, it was about uncovering truths hidden beneath layers of deception. She wouldn't allow answers to slip away unnoticed. She needed to confront the reality lurking behind that anonymous message, head-on. Time was no ally. Jake was counting on her strength. But where would this confrontation lead? Would it unravel the fabric of their relationship or weave them closer together? Her heart raced with mixed emotions as she gazed out the window, the clouds finally parting to reveal a sliver of sunlight. Could this be a sign? In the search for clarity, she was ready to dive deeper into the unknown. And as Mackenzie completed her loop of introspection, the clock ticked, reminding her that the next move was hers. Would she stumble through the dark, or could she uncover the truth that would finally illuminate their path? Sarah stepped into the house, but the comfort of familiarity was quickly overtaken by a suffocating atmosphere of apprehension. She ran her fingers through her hair, the weight of the conversation with her old friend pressing down like an anchor. How could she protect Jake when this new threat loomed in the shadows? The distorted memories of their past friendship rolled through her thoughts, tangled up with the urgency of the situation. Jake, she called, her voice steadier than she felt. As his small frame entered the room, she felt the tug of her heartstrings tighten. He glanced up, full of the innocence and excitement that used to light up her world, but now she saw a flicker of something else, a hint of unease mirroring her own. Are you okay, Mom? He asked, his brow furrowing. She forced a smile, masking the anxiety brewing beneath the surface. Of course, sweetie. How's the practice going? Pretty good. His enthusiasm was infectious, a breath of fresh air in her clouded mind. I think I might actually be ready for the birthday party. The thought sent another pang of dread through her. His birthday was supposed to be a joyous occasion, but now it felt like a precipice, teetering between celebration and a potential collapse. Sure, but she hesitated, the words gathering in her throat. I think we need to talk about some things before the party. Like what? He tilted his head in that way that reminded her of puppy dogs, his innocence making every deliberation 10 times harder. Just some things about your tricks. The innocent spark in his eyes dimmed. What things? Taking a deep breath, she pushed herself forward, determined to gain control of this situation. I heard there might be some trouble with them. People are noticing. So, I need you to be careful. Mom, you're just being paranoid. He puffed his chest slightly, a vivid display of his desires to assert his independence. Paranoid? Maybe, she admitted, holding his eyes steady. But I need you to understand, it's not just about the tricks right now. It's about how we handle everything that comes with them. Her heart pinched at the thought of limiting his joy, but fear anchored her words. Silence hung between them, a fragile thread of understanding ready to snap. He crossed his arms defensively. You're ruining everything, he whispered, a touch of bitterness in his voice. Jake. I'm trying to protect you. But I'm fine. His voice cracked as he threw his hands into the air, frustration rolling off him as heat rose in her cheeks. I'm good at this. I don't need protecting. Desperation surged within her. She could feel the walls closing in not from any external threat, but rather the growing divide between them. It's not that simple. Listen, there are things I need to learn from you too, we can figure it out together. For a moment, he paused, uncertainty flickering across his face. Sarah seized the opportunity to reach into her own family history for support and clarity. She thought of her mother's unwavering belief in her parenting, how it had emboldened her. Perhaps what she needed was to channel that same conviction now. Let us make a pact. She lowered her voice, tenderness softening her words. I promise to support your magic, but I need you to promise me that if something feels wrong, even the slightest bit, we talk about it. No secrets. He hesitated, the weight of her proposition settling between them, creating a new bridge of understanding. Okay, Mom, he finally relented, albeit begrudgingly. Satisfied, but still simmering with hidden concerns, Sarah nodded. Good. We'll figure this out together. As she watched him retreat, she mentally plotted her next steps. There was more to uncover, mysteries looming out there beyond her control, but she wouldn't stop until she unearthed the truth about Jake's circumstances. As night began to fall, enveloping the house in shadows, she pulled out her phone and executed an impulsive decision, a text to her old friend asking for the details that had been withheld. The response could illuminate or complicate further, but she wouldn't shrink away from whatever confrontation came next. With her heart racing, she pressed send, awareness of their ever-thickening obstacles gnawing at her instinct for protection. What would she uncover about Jake, and what would it mean for their future? The clock ticked ominously in the background, a reminder that time worked differently when the stakes involved loved ones. She could already feel the pressure building again. The call was set in motion, and the dark undertones of the past might soon resurface, beckoning her to confront the storms gathering on the horizon. Would she have the courage to face the shadows lurking in the depths of her own family's secrets? The following morning broke with an unusual vibrancy, the sun traversing the sky like a beacon of hope amidst the uncertainty that had clouded Sarah's mind for days. She had sent that crucial text to her old friend the previous night, and now the anticipation gnawed at her. What revelations would unfold? While Jake busied himself with last-minute preparations for his birthday party, Sarah seized the moment to gather her own thoughts. In the quiet of their kitchen, she found herself reflecting on the journey they had embarked on, the trials, the tensions, and the tentative bridge they had begun building between them. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her reverie, and she quickly scanned the screen. A response from her friend illuminated the truth she had desperately sought. There's been chatter about Jake's new tricks. Some are impressed, while others feel uneasy. You need to talk to him. Address the concerns before things escalate. The message pierced her heart, but as she read and reread it, she felt a rush of determination bloom within her. It was time to confront the fears lingering in the shadows, to empower Jake to stand tall in the face of scrutiny, and more importantly to become the mother he needed. As Jake entered the kitchen, excitement practically radiated from him. Mom. I set up everything in the living room. And I've got some cool new tricks I want to show everyone, he beamed, completely oblivious to the storm brewing in Sarah's heart. That's fantastic. She replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite meet her eyes. But can we talk for a moment? About those tricks? He froze momentarily, a flicker of concern crossing his face before he settled into a more defensive posture. What about them? They're part of my act for today. Of course they are, and they're brilliant. But I need you to hear me out. There are rumors, Jake, concerns from people about safety and your new routines. I don't want anyone to stifle your creativity, but it's important we navigate this together. The moment hung thick in the air, anticipation coursing through her. Suddenly, Jake's face hardened. What do you mean rumors? Just what I heard. Some people aren't sure about how these tricks work, and now you're worried that I'm revealing too much, huh? He cut her off, crossing his arms. Mom, you don't understand. That's part of the art. It's about surprise. Realizing she needed a softer approach, Sarah took a slow breath, grounding herself. You're right. It is about surprise. And that's what makes your magic special. I was thinking, what if you went over your routines with me first? I'd love to help you prepare and we can address any concerns together. Jake's furrowed brow relaxed slightly. All right, he said cautiously. But I don't want to change my tricks. I want to keep them fun. Absolutely, I wouldn't want you to sacrifice your joy, she reassured him, igniting her resolve. The conversation pivoted, an evolving dialogue filled with laughter as they practiced tricks together. Sarah watched him shine, each reveal sweeping away strands of tension. They diligently worked through the acts, and bit by bit, she built a framework around Jake, nurturing his passion while keeping the concern in check. As the hours flowed, the party momentum built, and her heart swelled with pride watching her son transform from anxious performer to confident magician. With each passing moment, she dedicated herself to fostering his magic, but she also reaffirmed her role as his protector. Just before the guests arrived, she gripped his shoulders gently. Remember, Jake, it's about having fun. Your passion is what people will see, not just the tricks. He smiled, a true connection sparking between them. Thanks, Mom. I really appreciate you being here for me. The doorbell rang, and a surge of excitement rushed through the room. With a nod, they got into position, ready to showcase the magic they had built together. As friends filled their home, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Laughter echoed and joy radiated from every corner. When it finally came time for Jake to perform, Sarah watched from the sidelines, heart swelling with pride. Jake stepped into the center, the spotlight illuminating his face as he expertly began his routine, each trick met with applause. In that moment, she saw the young man he was becoming no longer just her son but an individual who was confident in his abilities. As the night wore on, something profound settled within her. The unknown threat had not come to pass. This party marked the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship, a bond rooted in authenticity and genuine support for one another. And just as the final applause subsided, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. She had learned to trust not only Jake's independence but the strength of their connection forged in vulnerability. That was her true achievement, not just a birthday party full of extravagant tricks but a deeper connection to her son, born from conversations laced with honesty, patience, and respect. The earlier shadows dissipated beneath the glow of their renewed relationship. With the evening winding down, Sarah found herself savoring the moments of laughter and exclamations of amazement from the crowd around her. In Jake's triumphant shine, she had conquered her fears, demonstrating that transparency could bridge any divide. The success of the party fulfilled a void she didn't know existed, and her heart brimmed with pride not just for Jake, but for herself. She had proven to herself that even amidst the uncertainty, a path could emerge from courage and commitment. That day, Sarah vowed never to let fear eclipse their bond again, grounding herself in the newfound understanding that growth requires both teaching and learning, a balance not only of individual experiences but of mutual co-creation. Jake's gleeful face beamed through the evening, while deep inside, she nurtured the profound hope that they had finally set out on a journey of unwavering and unmistakable love, hand in hand. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.